The traditional infusion care experience is overdue for a consumer-centered transformation. Our next guest, Torbe Nielsen, is leading this revolution as CEO and co-founder of Uptiv Health. With 15 plus years building innovative healthcare solutions and executive experience at retail giants like Lego, Torbe brings a unique consumer-first perspective to healthcare delivery. After successful leadership roles at ZoomCare and HealthSpark, he's now reimagining infusion care for patients with chronic conditions through Uptiv Health's retail-based centers. The platform combines comfortable private treatment suites with a comprehensive digital experience that extends care beyond the infusion chair. Join us to discover how Uptiv Health is delivering spa-like experiences at half the cost of hospital settings while setting a new standard for whole person care in the $150 billion infusion market. Let's go.
Welcome to Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli, where we highlight and speak with the innovators, the game changers, and the pioneers who are deeply passionate and relentless in solving the problems our world is facing today. This is your opportunity to connect with and learn from these leaders and to support them on their mission. Perhaps they will soon be hearing your story as well. This is Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. I look forward to having you on this journey with us. Hi, Torben. Welcome back to our podcast, my friend. I am so excited to have you join us for a second time.
Thank you, Mike. It's great to be here again.
Well, given your national leadership of building innovative digital and retail healthcare solutions over the past 15 years, along with your most recent startup launch, I'm fired up to have you back on the show to share some big updates. But before we dive in, a bit of housekeeping. While listening to any of our episodes, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast so you will automatically receive episode updates in your podcast player. Simply search Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And lastly, please visit the bottom of the episode notes to connect with me on LinkedIn and X in order to further the conversations occurring on this podcast. All right, Torben, it is almost time for our community to learn how you and the Uptiv Health team are transforming the experience of infusion care for millions of Americans with complex chronic conditions such as multiple sclerosis, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, rheumatoid arthritis, and others. But first, what's that one piece of advice that you would give to others who are passionate about reimagining the health of our world?
Thanks, Mike. I would just encourage everybody to think as a consumer. I think this industry really lacks consumerism and retail-based thinking. And when we operate as consumers in a traditional retail chain, it's very different from healthcare, and we can do much better. And so let's bring in the 21st century even to healthcare.
Do you also think, Torbe, and I love this about you, and I know we're going to dive in a little bit more on the other side of the commercial break on your incredible storied history of the things that you have built for our industry with that retail bent, especially, I'm just going to tease it right now. You used to be an executive at that lovely company called Lego. So you know about the retail experience. You've done it at incredible places along the way. But Torben, my question to build on that, do you also think the patient is also ready to be a consumer as well, right? We've lived in this scenario where I, as a patient, I just hear from on high, my provider say, do X, Y, and Z, and I just do X, Y, and Z. But have you seen also a shift with the patient thinking as a consumer now as well?
Yeah, I think we're starting to see it, particularly coming out of COVID. COVID kind of really made telehealth much more normal, and we're seeing more and more patients consuming telehealth visits, just like they will utilize the internet for any other business that they do in a retail setting. So I think consumers are ready. I think we as a system and as providers really need to embrace it and show them that healthcare can be just as convenient as buying something on Amazon.com.
Well, I know we're going to dive into all of that and much more about all of the things and how you think of the world, of how we can think about being a consumer, how we can offer our products and services in healthcare from a consumer type lens, because you have been doing it time and time again. You have a storied career and an incredible startup that you have in front of you now. We're going to discuss all of that and more after we get back from thanking our community champion sponsor.
Healthcare faces a paradox that echoes through generations. While the current practices that help heal patients today are vital, it is crucial to evaluate them through an environmental lens. OSHA's Responsible for Tomorrow initiative is a collection of interviews featuring influential thought leaders and industry experts like you who share their sustainability strategies, insights, and provide valuable perspectives from diverse industries to inspire innovation within the healthcare sector. Oster invites you to join this journey. Want to share your sustainability story? Oster is actively looking for partners to highlight the important and inspiring work being done around the globe. Check out Oster's Responsible for Tomorrow initiative and series at oster.com. That's OSSUR.com. Or visit the episode notes and click on their link. Together, and with Oster helping lead the way, let's all be responsible for tomorrow.
All right, we are back with Torben Nielsen, CEO and co-founder of Uptiv Health. Torben, so great to have you back on the episode. Happy New Year, my friend. Awesome time that we've had conversations many times together over the past number of years. I love how you look at the industry, how you view the world of how we can really truly move healthcare forward. And you've been doing it time and time again. Of course, we got to hear the story of how Uptiv Health came to be in the first place. You've had incredible stops along the way. Can't wait to hear more about the current startup that's in front of you. And then, of course, where you guys are at, how are things going in the marketplace, how the response has been from those consumers. And then, of course, got to look a little future state. What are you seeing on the horizon that we need to be thinking of and be mindful of? And then we can't let you leave until we can figure out how we can be helping you and the Uptiv Health team as well. But of course, Torben, let's start there. How did Uptiv Health come into focus? I mean, obviously, storied career. You've been doing this time and time again. Give us a little backdrop. And then, of course, we're going to discuss who Uptiv Health is. But give us a little bit of that behind the scenes of how this all came to focus in the first place.
Yeah, so Uptiv Health is seeing an opportunity in the market around infusion care. As you said, we really see an opportunity to transform the way it's being done today. Today, most infusion happens in hospital settings. If you think about it, nobody really wants to go to a hospital. It's hard to find parking. It's hard to find a building where you're going to get the infusion. The infusion might be up on the third floor once you get up there. It's typically a community setting, meaning it's one big open room where the chairs lined up and you get a seat and you sit there for 2 or 3 hours getting your infusion. There's no privacy. It's very noisy. The alarms going off, nurses running around. It's not a very comfortable situation to be in. And worst of all, it's the most expensive place where you can get an infusion. There are facility fees being added on top of it. And what we're saying is we can actually move a lot of infusion that happens in hospital settings today into retail-based settings where people live and work. So in small strip malls, close to where you actually live and work, right next to a Starbucks, right next to a Cordoba, you park your car right outside, you walk 5 meters, street level, and you're in our centers. Our centers are designed with a human-centered design approach. And so our nurses will greet you at the front door because we know when you schedule your appointment for, right? They're going to take you by the hand and escort you into your private suite. In your private suite, you're going to get Wi-Fi enabled services, flat screen TV, snacks, drinks, recliner, dimmed lights if you want it. You can get a private individual suite for you and a friend, or you can get a private family suite that's a little bigger for your family to actually fit in as well. Or you can get a community setting if you so want to have your infusion out in the nurse's alcove where you can maybe make some friends. But our focus is really making it very personalized to you in a private setting, and we do it for half the price of a hospital setting.
Well, Torben, thank you for sharing that in regards to the consumers starting to think now differently. And it's sometimes going in these large healthcare complexes, sometimes city blocks in size, wayfinding, trying to figure out where to go, where to park, how to even get in there and access it. You know, this notion of consumerism that you kind of talked about on the front end of this podcast and how we need to start thinking about that, both as the providers, if you will, and as the patients. Where did you and the Uptiv Health team see the signals, and what were the signals before you even formally launched the company? What did you see to say, you know what, we need to go all in and we need to launch this startup? What were some of those signals?
Yeah, we were looking at the costs of infusion at its totality, and it's a $150 billion market, right? There are more and more infusions coming into the market as well. I think half of all medications looked at the FDA is infusion-based, and we all grow older, right? So the need for infusion is increasing as well. And so the costs are not sustainable to the system long term, and we see this as an opportunity to set up lower cost options that are much more focused on humanizing healthcare as we know it.
Well, let's talk about that humanizing healthcare, Torben. I think it's a great jumping off of some of the questions I also wanted to discuss. We'll discuss a moment around the patient or the consumer of what their experience has been like. What are you hearing that feedback from them? But of course, I also want to discuss the providers themselves. What has it been like for them? Because I got to imagine some of these providers and these clinicians that are working in the Uptiv health scene and scenery and being in that space and maybe coming from more traditional settings. Let's start there. What has it been like for the Uptiv health clinicians? What is their experience like? What are you hearing from them on the front lines?
Yeah, as you can imagine, it's night and day, right? When you work in a hospital setting, there's burnt out nurses and physicians. It's hard to manage the flow of patients. We have a retail-based setting where we have a nurse-patient ratio of 1-3, so really low. And we always have a couple of nurses in our clinics, in our centers. And it's a very different experience where they can really cater to the patient. And the patient loved the experience. They actually write reviews talking about this being almost a spa-like experience because you get your private suite, you can work, you can watch your favorite Hulu or Netflix movie, you can sleep, you can bring a friend, get snacks and drinks. It's a very different experience for the patient and our clinicians.
I got to imagine there's got to be some bonding there too between clinician and patient, right? Because, or consumer, as you like to say, I want to continue to reiterate that. Because as you mentioned, that it's not this massive influx of patients and it's just complete burnout happening all the time. What's that relationship like being built between your clinicians and your patients and your consumers?
I mean, our clinicians actually have the time to build a relationship with our patients. And because we're dealing with infusion, a lot of our patients come in on a very regular basis to get their medication. And so over time, there's really a trustworthy relationship being built between patient and provider. And we have a patient net promoter score of 99. It doesn't get better than that, right? I'm telling my team we can't get to 100 because then it's almost unbelievable, but patients really love the experience. And part of how we bring that personalized experience to life is by utilizing a patient app. We are the only infusion provider that has a patient app that allows the patient to actually start the onboarding process with Uptiv from the comfort of their homes. They set up their profile right on the app. They take a picture of the insurance card that is stored in the app. They can fill out all the consent forms in the app. They can prepare themselves for their visit. They can even set preferences for their visit and let us know whether they want an extra warm blanket or not before they come in, whether or not they'd like to see Hulu or Netflix on the flat screen TV, whether they want coffee, tea, or soda with their infusion, whether or not they're bringing a friend. And all those preferences sit on a silver platter as they enter their private suite for their infusion.
What is it also like? Because that was going to be my next question. So you beat me to the punch in regards to how do we digitally keep the patient consumer connected to the Uptiv team? Is it also true, or maybe you can explain to the community, what is it like in between visits as well? So of course, Mike, the patient, he's been onboarded, he's in there, he's got his app loaded up. What does it look like? I come in for my visit and then I go home. Can I still be in touch with the Uptiv team?
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of us introducing a patient app in this journey, which has not been done before, is that we can continue to have conversations with you and we can add additional services on top of our virtual care platform. So 90% of our patients have downloaded our app and utilize our app. That's phenomenal, right? It allows them to send messages to our care team. It allows them to get on video consultations with our care team. It allows them to see their visit notes. They can even add additional Apple Health data. They can connect to other EMRs. So more of their health data is embedded into the app itself. And it allows us to then add additional services that actually go beyond infusion that we think is really important for that chronic person going through a very complex healthcare journey. And so we can talk about some of those services here in a second.
Well, absolutely. I definitely want to go there because when you start thinking about the entire care continuum from behavioral mental health as well, because like you mentioned, this is a chronic state for a lot of these patients. Let's go there. Let's discuss, Torben, what does this mean for that patient? They're feeling connected because you know as well as I do, another thing that automatically or immediately popped in my head is this epidemic we have in our country, well, really around the globe right now, of loneliness, right? Loneliness is a massive killer as well. And so when I start thinking about it from the consumers and patients you are serving, it has to go beyond just that point in time of receiving that infusion. This becomes part of their life, would it not?
Yeah, it totally is, Mike. And it's actually one of the differentiators that we pride ourselves on. We were one of the first, if not the only one infusion provider to actually offer what we call whole person care. the person is going through a very complex healthcare journey. They see us more often than they see their primary care doc, right? They see us more often than they see the specialist because they come in on average every 3 to 4 months, right? And they build a relationship with us. So for us to have the ability to add care coordination, care management, medication management, and even behavioral health and talk therapy via our virtual care platform that we have introduced with them, and that 90% of them have adopted, right? Of our patients have adopted this virtual care platform, really is amazing, right? So now we actually screen all our patients for behavioral health. We took the standard PHQ-9 questionnaire, we condensed it to just 4 questions that we ask as part of you onboarding with Optiv and getting ready for your next visit. You will always be asked these 4 questions. And as you walk into the clinic and you sit down with our nurse practitioners, they will review your questionnaire. And if you scored high on the PHQ-4, they will introduce and warm transfer you over to one of our therapists that will then take you by the hand and introduce you to a full PHQ-9 and set up a clinical care plan for you if you so need it.
Absolutely wonderful. I love hearing that. And Torben, of course, you mentioned a little bit ago that your net promoter score is literally through the roof. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, it's off the chart.
That's off the charts, especially in healthcare. That's unheard of. But Torben, let's go there for a little bit as well. Let's talk about the patient, maybe some actual specific instances or feedback that you've heard from patients, of course, without having to share any PHI. But what has the feedback been from those patients that you serve? Life-changing, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure it gives folks hope now, right? Connected, community, all of that. What are you hearing from those patients that are coming into your clinics?
Yeah, we hear from a lot of our patients. We've done surveys. 30% of them used to go to hospital settings or in-office provider settings. And when they experience the Optiv Health experience, they talk about it as a spa-like experience and they would never want to go back. I especially was touched by one of our younger patients who is 16, 17 years old. Her parents need to drive her to her appointments, and she used to go to a hospital setting. And it was very hard for her parents to actually be with her during the infusion because the chairs are just lined up and there's no room really for any guests to be around. And it's a scary moment, as you can imagine, for a 16-year-old to get into a room with other chronic patients getting infusion. When she realized that Optiv Health was in her neighborhood and she came over the first time with her parents, it was just night and day, right? Here you get your own private suite, flat screen TV, calm environment, soothing environment. The nurses are there for you and actually have time to cater to you and your parents. We have drinks and snacks, and it just changed their mind about what infusion can be and actually helped her recuperate a lot faster than when she went to a hospital setting. Just the stress of being in that environment took her several days to get over. Now in Optiv Health, she's basically jumping or running out, of the clinic, feeling good and happy. And we cut down the recovery time to basically a day.
Oh, what a wonderful story. I absolutely love hearing that. Now, Torben, let's also talk kind of the business side of all of this. And, one of the things that we need to be continuing to think about is bending this cost curve. You know as well as I do, and you and I have chatted about this a number of times through our own respective journeys in healthcare innovation, that what we're faced with right now is not sustainable, and how we're going about it is on the macro, if you will. It's just not sustainable. We have to figure out ways to bend that cost curve in order to right the ship, if you will, of this industry that is leading our nation to bankruptcy. But that's a whole nother aside. Specifically around this, Torben, you mentioned moving the care setting of these infusions to, say, an Optiv Health is a heck of a lot cheaper of a proposition. Obviously, this has got to be very beneficial for everybody involved on the financial side as well. Would that be so?
Yeah, absolutely. By shifting care from a hospital setting into a retail-based setting like Optiv Health, we cut costs anywhere between 40 to 70% of the infusion drug costs. And then with us adding additional whole person care on top of it, helping the chronic patient going through their healthcare journey with advice and guidance, we think we can cut down the costs even further. So there's a lot of benefits in shifting care out of hospital settings into a retail-based setting.
I appreciate that. And now let's go ahead and grab that crystal ball off the shelf, if you will. Let's look a little future state, Torben. Of course, as you know, a lot of amazing folks that are passionate about moving our healthcare industry forward are tuning in on the weekly. and of course, want to continue to learn from leaders just like yourself. So on the macro, what are you seeing for the industry? Obviously, this shift into these type of retail-based settings is one of your big passions and something that you've been committed to for years. But what are you seeing on the macro that we should be mindful of over the next coming years that you're seeing, those trends that you're seeing? And then, of course, where is Uptive Health going to be as well?
I think we'll see more of this shift from hospital settings into retail-based settings. We're already seeing that patients are starting to look for, alternatives to hospital infusions. Over 10% of our patients actually found us via the internet. They were looking up other alternative infusion providers. And I think that trend is going to increase much further over the next 5 years. And for Uptive, our journey, we got seed funded back in 23, and we are now looking to raise our Series A here this quarter in Q1, Q2. And we'll be looking to standing up additional clinics in Michigan and beyond with that raise because we know there's a need for a retail-based infusion, and particularly a hybrid model that combines the in-person infusion with the virtual care services on top of it that really view the person as a whole person, guiding them along in their complex healthcare journey.
Well, let's go there and ask how we can be helpful. I think you've already teased it a bit, but what's one problem, need, or question that you have that our community can be helping you with at this time?
Yeah, so we're obviously looking at fundraising. So we're looking at investors that are willing to see this as an opportunity. The infusion space is growing rapidly. There are more and more therapies coming into this space. We all grow older. We get diagnosed with disease states that could be improved by utilizing infusion. And so we'll be looking for investors for our Series A. And then obviously having partners. We actually think we could be a strong partner with health systems that are looking at moving their biologics into retail-based settings. We know how to do it. We have expertise in setting up lean retail-based infusion centers, and they could be tremendous partners with either hospital systems or even payers that are looking at making a move in a vertical integration perspective.
Well, Torben, thank you for that, in a very exciting future state for you and the things that you are needing right now to continue the growth of the organization. I know there's a lot of folks out there that are looking for investment opportunities just like this. But in order for them to get a hold of you, Torben, what are the contact points online, social media handles, or otherwise? How do they get a hold of you online?
Yeah, I would just encourage everybody to go bookmark UptiveHealth.com. Go follow us on LinkedIn under Uptive Health. And you can also follow me, Torbe Nielsen, on LinkedIn as well.
Easy enough. And for our listening community, just simply scroll into the episode notes of your favorite podcast player where you're accessing this show, or you could head over to our free global online community at passionatepioneers.com. There will be a post for this episode where you can find those contact points, as well as leave any comments, feedback, suggestions, or otherwise, again, over at passionatepioneers.com. Torben, it was great to have you back on the podcast, my friend. There's only been a literal handful of folks after 300 plus episodes that have been back on the show, but you have been doing just such incredible work over the years. I could not have you back. So it was great to have you here. But of course, before we let you go, we have one more piece for you, Torben. It is a fill in the blank. I'm a passionate pioneer because
I care for patients, and I feel we need to be acting more as consumers in this complex healthcare system. I'm a mission on making that happen.
You certainly are, my friend. You have been dedicated to this for many, many years, and I'm honored and humbled to be able to call you a friend, have you back on the show, and continue to be a part of your journey. It's just been an absolute honor watching all the things that you've been building over these years, Torben.
Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate your friendship and what you do for the industry. It's tremendous.
Well, thank you again, Torben, and thank you for being with us today. Thank you for joining us today on Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. We'd love to hear your feedback about the podcast so we can continue to improve this community and to further support the pioneers being featured. Lastly, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast and invite your friends and colleagues to join us. This is Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. I look forward to having you back with us during our next episode.